Hey, welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. I'm your host, Sal Interdonato. The Black Knight Nation podcast is brought to you by Higher Echelon. Higher Echelon, a company run by Joe Ross, who's a former Army fullback, former Army assistant coach, former Army officer, and he's been a guest on the Black Knight Nation podcast. If you subscribe to Black Knight Nation podcast, you'll be told when we're going live for recaps like this one, the UConn win that Army had yesterday. You'll get interviews with former Army football players. And also, we have some press conference stuff up from yesterday. I had an exclusive interview with freshman Jabril Williams, who blocked that punt on UConn's first possession that gave Army a 7-0 lead. Check out, I just wrote a story on Jabril Williams, too. That's up on our website, blackknightnation.com. You have our guest, Seth Mendelson's game story up on Black Knight Nation. We have Brendan in Jersey. He's going to provide his only the insight he can provide here on our recaps. We have Brendan here too. So and we'll see if Steve Anderson drops in a little bit. But just check us out. Check out our Instagram. Our Instagram is hopping. Putting up some stories up there, putting them up some videos too. I took a video of the senior day ceremony that's up on our YouTube channel. It's also, I believe, up on our Instagram. 19 seniors, Army celebrated before the game against UConn. We had Margaret Kite, our photographer, there. Man, Margaret takes really good pictures. We're gonna have we have a gallery already up on our website. We're gonna have more photos from Margaret later on too. Just great stuff. We kicked butt covering this game. That's all I'm gonna say. And man, I can't wait to talk about it. So we might as well get that started, get all the plugs out of the way and that kind of stuff. By the way, my Twitter, we still have Twitter, guys. We still have Twitter, right? For now, we still have Twitter. And I'm up to 8,900 followers. My quest for 10,000 followers continues, and I hope that Twitter stays around. So let's get to the recap. Enough of me talking. Seth, man, when we were watching this game right from the press box, start off, Army gets that pump block, and you're like, that's an unexpected, definitely boost for them, right? The special teams play, they get up 7-0. Jabril Williams with the block, Miles Stewart recovers it on the bounce and goes into the end zone for 7. But then UConn's controlling this game in the first quarter, and it's like we've seen this before with other teams and also Army, where Army ran 3 plays in the first quarter. I think UConn ran like 24 plays. I think UConn had like 108 yards of total offense. I think Army had like 8 or something like that in the first quarter. And you're thinking, okay, it's a little bit of a struggle here. What's going to go on? You're not sure what's going on. You're almost questioning if they can pull out this game. And then you see the end result, 34-17, pretty comfortable win. The Vegas guys know what they're talking about. That Army favored by 10 the whole week long. And I mean, Army pulls it off, gets a 17-point win. Let's get your initial thoughts on the game.
I agree with you. I mean, we have to remember the reason Army didn't get the ball offensively in the first quarter is because they had the blocked punt. So UConn was able to, the first 3 minutes they had the ball. We had the block punt for the touchdown, and then they had the ball for the next 10 minutes or so, whatever it was, 12 minutes. So Army only got 3 balls. It was a 4 and out. The only time they had the ball. Honestly, I sat there with you in the press box, and when UConn scored their touchdown, that nice run by I think his name was Rosa, the long run, the 42-yard run.
Yeah.
I said to myself, boy, this is going to be a long afternoon. 3 minutes left in the first half. I turned to the guy on the other side. I said, boy, this is crucial. Even though Army gets the ball to start the second half, this is a crucial series. And, they were aided by that pass interference call, good call. Stupid play by the UConn defender. Didn't need to do that. I think the ball was overthrown. And that gave them a first down. And then, of course, they drove in and scored the touchdown, which, put us up front ahead again. Second half, different Army team. For the first time, they came out and played a really good offensive game while maintaining a great defensive game. In the first quarter, in the first play of the second quarter, they stopped 2 UConn touchdowns that were brought back because of Booth. And and again, I sat there and said, okay, in one case it was 1st and 1 from the 1. They didn't score. They hurt themselves with a 5 yard procedure penalty. And then, they didn't score. They settled for a field goal. And then, late in the first quarter, early second quarter, they had, again, I think it was 2nd and 1, and Army stopped them. And they went for it on fourth and I think 2, and Army stopped them. And, kudos to the Army defense. If you do the math, Army's given up what now? 40 or so points in the last 3 games, something like that. That's pretty damn good. And it was a different team. You saw a different team show up. And I got to tell you, you're going to hate me for saying this, but boy, this would be a different season if we were utilizing the offense that they utilized in the second half of this game against Air Force, against Troy, and maybe some others. But maybe I'm missing something. Maybe they saw something that I didn't. I'm sure they did. They're professionals,
Yeah.
and I'm not. But it's a big win for Army. Final thing I'll say is we're now 4-6. UMass, we should win, I hope. And Navy, who knows? And 6-6, given everything they've been through, not bad. And there's an outside chance if we go 6-6 of a bowl game. Very far outside, but you never know.
Yeah, I'll talk about that, and we'll talk about that in a second. Let's just get Brendan's initial thoughts, and we got a lot to talk about with halftime adjustments and the like, and we already have some people sending in their comments, guys. If you have any comments or questions, or just about questions for us, please feel free to send them. We'll put them on, and we'll answer them, and respect your opinions. Brendan, what your initial thoughts on the game?
So obviously very happy to get a win. This college football is not the NFL. There's no benefit to tanking. So always, always good to be in the win column. Very happy to see a good crowd. In late November, that's somewhat unexpected, although that kind of goes with my hypothesis earlier in the season that, it's easier for people to warm themselves and cool themselves off, and people don't like baking in the sun in September. So, but I don't know. For me, big picture wise, I'm just like, I'm just not sure. I'm not sure what this game means. Other than a quality win, and as you said, Army in the Jeff Monken era, they're very known for beating spreads as an underdog. They're not so much known for covering spreads as a favorite. So that was pretty rare to see yesterday. But one point I'm sure we're all wanting to talk about is I couldn't help but notice that a very big deal was being made in the press conferences afterwards, that the 75-yard touchdown play was due to halftime adjustments from Brent Davis. And it's like, okay, why is that being broadcasted so loudly? Is that, is that trying to take the heat off of certain people? Is that addressing criticism? All of the above? Neither. I don't know, but I did find that very interesting.
That's a good point, Brendan. I never thought about that, but you're right. They all made a very big point of that the halftime adjustments. And let's be honest, that 75-yard run was because the kid weaved his way through the defenses. He broke through the line, and then he did what he did. And it was an exciting play. Probably one of the most exciting plays this year for Army. But that's a good point. I didn't think
Absolutely.
about it.
Yeah, I think that was a little misdirection, right? Misdirection play, misdirection play, inside handoff to Brahim Murphy. Brahim Murphy had 125 yards, career high 125 yards. He came into this game, and I was shocked. I'm like, I want to check out Brahim Murphy's career rushing yards, because I think he's a guy who's been in the lineup for 3 years. I'm like, I believe his Twitter handle is something like Heem1K. So I'm like, let me check if he's close to 1,000 yards career rushing in his career. He came into this game with 100 yards rushing on the season. And I'm like, man, I think that Brahim Murphy should be getting the ball more often when things like that come in. But you have Tyrell Robinson, you have Ijon Marshall, and you have Brahim Murphy. They've been like a rotation, like the top three slot backs, so to speak, for Army this season. I'm like, man, he really stepped up because Marshall was hurt, right? Ijon Marshall was hurt. He did not play in this game. We found out later from Coach Monken after the game that Tyrell Robinson is definitely out for the season. He's not coming back this season due to injury. Ijon Marshall, they hope to get back. I was going to write this later on, possibly tomorrow. Ijon Marshall they hope to get back for the UMass game. So, but Brahim Murphy is playing with Maurice Ballon, who was a quarterback last year that was moved to slot back. Miles Stewart, who's a sophomore slot back, who has a lot of potential. And then Brahim Murphy gets hurt late in the game, and they're using Lucky Brooks. I think he's a sophomore. I could be wrong. I think Lucky Brooks is a sophomore. He is a sophomore, and was a fullback. He was a fullback. They're using him at slot back. So they're pretty thin right now at slot back and wide receiver. And Brahim Murphy steps up and has his career game on Senior Day, right? On Senior Day, yeah. Seth, you wrote about how many seniors stepped up in this game, right? Marquell Broughton, of course. Brahim Murphy, Tahir Tyler. Give Jamel Jones a lot of credit. He ran that last late scoring drive in the second quarter to put Army to give Army the lead. And DeAndre Tobias, a senior safety, had an interception in this game. So I mean, you talked about the seniors stepping up in this game, and I mean, that's what it's all about, I think, on a day like that. And before I stop babbling here, I looked this up. Army's record on senior days under Jeff Monken. Like, granted, they're not facing ranked teams on senior days, right? It's late in the season. It's November. Some of these games are against FBS teams. They've won 7 straight senior days under Monken, and they've won 8 out of 9 senior days under Monken. So, I mean, shows a sense of pride playing at home. And some of those seasons weren't the greatest seasons, right? They've had some struggling seasons early on, and good for them getting the win. I guess I totally changed the subject on the halftime adjustments, right? I mean, so Seth, do you have anything to add about the halftime adjustments or no?
The dog's having some sort of an episode behind me.
Okay.
See him running around having a good time. So his name is Mickey Mantle Mendelson. I apologize for him. I don't know what the deal is. I'm going to sit there and say that this is what we should be doing all the time. I don't know if UConn's a good team or not. I can't figure that out. They're 6-6. They beat a good team in Liberty last week. They've won some good games. They've got beat bad by some teams like Syracuse, which has turned out to be an average team. Michigan beat them up. So I don't know how good they are. But we should be doing this all the time. Somebody just wrote Bay Knight. The outside game was faster than pass games. Why are we going up the middle as much as we do? We should be opening up the outside game and then go up the middle when you see fit and add a little passing in there. I don't get it. I don't get it. What the strategy is before this game, and
we mentioned how the outside game can also set up the inside game, right? We also mentioned it's not just dive, set up pitch. It could be also, hey, get it on the outside, make them aware you got some threats on the outside, and then maybe that opens up the inside. But that's me, who's never coached a college football game in my life. So,
and nor have I. But I've been to a million college football games in my life. I think I know the game pretty well for somebody who hasn't coached, and I don't get it. I mean, this is what the Army success, as with the other service academies, is is speed, because you can recruit speed at West Point. You can't necessarily recruit size and weight. It's harder to get because of the requirements. But speed, there's nothing that says you can't get a kid who's super fast. You can't do that. And in fact, you're getting athletes a lot of times at West Point just to go to school there. You have to be well-rounded. I don't understand why we haven't tried this before. It worked yesterday. It worked. It surprised me. I had us losing this game. We talked about this. I wrote it in the picks with you last week. I did not think we were going to win this game. And not only
35-10 or 35-10 or something. What was your score?
I think it was something like that. Yeah.
35-20 or something like that.
I thought they were going to blow us out. And in fact, we blew them out. And kudos to everybody on that coaching staff, and of course the players who do it. But boy, I wish we would have done this before. We wouldn't be staring at 4-6 now. Maybe we'd be 6-4 or something like that. And I know we can't look back, but I'm looking back.
I also think alternatively, had they started with anybody else but Coastal and UTSA and kind of like add a little more time to adjust to the team they have and kind of ease into the cold water, as it were, I think this season might have gone significantly differently. But I mean, again, the fact that there was such a point made in the press conferences of like, oh, like this play came from a second or from a halftime adjustment, and it's after 2 weeks where they were shut out in the second half. It's like, okay, so you can do this, or is this unusual, or is this what you try to do and it just hasn't been working? It's like it opens it opens so many more questions than you resolve just by making that statement.
Yeah, where was this? Where was this in the second half? They're playing teams, at least an Air Force team that's kind of familiar with what they're running, but Troy, I mean, you could have certainly opened it up a little bit on that final drive against Troy to move the ball a little bit closer for a field goal. Some people I hear from say, if you're a Division I kicker, you got to make those 41, 42-yard field goals. Those should be academic for you. But that's a little bit in the past. But
Troy didn't beat us. We lost to Troy. Yesterday, we beat UConn. UConn didn't lose to us.
Good point.
And I can say the same thing about Air Force. Okay, and I put this on the coaches. I don't put this on the players. West Point, to be successful, has to use what they have to their advantage, and that's an innovative offensive approach that keeps everybody off balance. In previous games, we knew if it was 3rd and 2 or 2nd and 4, they're giving the ball to the fullback or the quarterback up the middle, these dives. Yesterday, second half especially, we saw different plays. It was more exciting as a fan. And Sal, you and I are both fans, we were there together. I know all three of us are fans. But geez, come on.
Professional, Seth. I'm a professional.
We're still fans. We're rooting for this team, and we want them to do well. And it was exciting. It was an interesting game. Let's not also discount the fact that 10 years ago, before instant replay, Army's losing the game 21-7. And it would have been a different game. And fortunately, instant replay correctly changed the plays, and they didn't score.
Sometimes you wish they could just get the call right on the field sometimes, right? But sometimes you do let the calls, let the plays play out, right? So then you can go to instant replay just to kind of give it a double check. Bay Knight said UConn ran a wide receiver screen in the third, and the guy cut back to the middle and ran into a wall of Army defense, a big statement along with the goal line stance. I mean, quite honestly, right, at the beginning of this game, Army's tackling was not good at all in the first quarter. They were missing a lot of tackles. They were over pursuing guys, and those goal line stands really kind of straightened them out a little bit. I know, Mark, I can't say enough. I want to write a column about this. I cannot say enough of Marquel Broughton. I mean, what he brings to the field for this team, the passion that he brings to the field, the leadership that he brings to the field, man, it was definitely evident during I wanted to come up with a better word, but definitely showed on Saturday against UConn. I mean, he is the heartbeat of this team, not this full team, right? I mean, God,
I got it. He gave me one of the best quotes I've had in the last 5 years, which we used, which the quote was, I looked at my teammates' eyes and I can see they weren't going to fold. They weren't going to quit. That quote, which is in my story, that's a great quote. Here's a 22-year-old kid, saying this. I am so impressed with him too. I didn't know much about him before the season. And, on the field, he's great. When he got injured, you saw the emotion. He couldn't go back into the game against Air Force and sat out against Troy. And then you see after the game, and he's been in, I think, 3 press conferences now with me. You know, I'm just super impressed with this kid. This kid's going to be a leader. I wouldn't be surprised in 20 years from now we hear General Broughton, and who knows, maybe he'll be
Yeah.
the superintendent at West Point. Wouldn't shock me. Would not shock me. This kid's a leader, and I'm sure other people are going to follow him. They probably follow him now at school. I know he has some sort of a leadership role, right, at West Point.
Regimental commander. They're one of three.
Yeah.
Regimental
I'm
commanders.
sure that these people, the kids lead, will follow him, and because this kid's a winner, and I mean, I don't know if he has an NFL career ahead of him or anything like that, but he certainly has a great military if he wants it, the long haul. And
I think
Go
they
ahead, Brandon.
mentioned it. I think they mentioned it on both radio and TV because I listened to the first half on radio and then watched the second half on TV at home, and I think both places mentioned it that last week because he sat out against Troy, and he actually put on a headset and was helping with the defensive calls.
He did.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the first game. He said that was the first game he missed in his football career ever.
Wow.
That was the first game he missed ever. And so he, a guy like that has the passion to play the sport. He's going to throw on a headset. And a guy like that has the passion to play this game. Look at how he played in this game against UConn. He was one of the difference makers. That third down pass in the end zone, that was a little odd call, like throwback call. He knocks the ball away. When guys are making fourth down stops, he's the first one there to celebrate with them. Jabril Williams, right, told me, well, actually, Marquel Broughton told me, as soon as Jabril Williams blocked that punt, one of the first people he saw when he ran to the sidelines was Broughton and thanked him for encouraging him to get after it in practice, to say, hey, you're going to get one of these eventually in the game. Freshman, senior. I mean, Jabril Williams is a scout team player for most of the season, and Marquel Broughton is taking the time to talk to Jabril Williams and build him up. Build him up. I don't think this is my personal opinion. I wish Steve Anderson was on this podcast. There's been a lot of great captains at Army in my time covering the team since 2007, right? Steve Anderson is one of them. I would put Marquel Broughton right up there at the top of captains for an Army football team that I've seen in the program since. So that's I'm trying 15 years. 15 years I've followed the team closely. He's probably the best captain I've ever seen. Probably the best captain I've ever seen. I don't think that's an understatement, Grant. And it's just incredible. Incredible. I just wanted to get that out there. I really want to write a column about it. Hopefully I have enough time to do it. And because I think it's definitely deserved. I mean, I just so impressed. And Seth, during the press conference, right? He's a little choked up at the beginning. He was very emotional at the beginning. It looked like he was this going out
in
his final game.
I think it was an important win for all of them. I think that they were down on their luck over the last few weeks. Monken said something interesting that, in the past, Army's won some really close games. They got a couple of breaks that went the Army way. And this year, we've had a couple of breaks that have gone against Army. Suddenly, these guys come out. They didn't just win the game. They blew out a team that probably is going to a bowl game. I assume they're going to go to a bowl game. I think that there was a lot of pride in that. Senior day, the fact that Mikey's going to look different starting next year. The fact that they've had a tough season. They lost a couple of close games against Air Force that they should be winning, against Troy. That's a good team that I saw got some votes this week for the top 25. I think number 28 or 29. I agree with you. This kid, but I mean, boy, is he articulate. I mean, I gotta tell you, they all are. You get, I was the same way. I mean, I'm just so impressed with these kids and how they talk to us. And I know they're trained to do this. They're military kids, but the respect they have for us, the respect they have for the competitors, for their coaches. You don't see this in other schools as much. And I realize what the service academies do, and that's a great thing. But I'm impressed with them, win or lose. I'm impressed with these kids every step of the way, and it's nicer when they win. And boy, I gotta tell you, Coach Monken was he loved he wanted to chat yesterday, so that was good too.
Yeah. This is Marquel Broughton's mom saying y'all having me crying over here. I mean, I saw Marquel's mom be on the field before senior day. I mean, it was a really important day for the seniors, and Marquel's mom and his sister were wearing his 20 jersey. We have a great photo by Margaret Kite of Markel, his mom and his sister together. I mean, it just means so much. And I've written about what Marquel has been through in his life and how like he's become a leader on this football team. And you know what, Seth? We were walking up the hill to the car, right? And we were talking about maybe Marquel's future and could he be an NFL prospect, right? And maybe he might not be the prototypical size for a safety, but you cannot question this guy's leadership. You cannot question his passion for the game or his heart for the game or his knowledge for the game, right? He the one play he made, I think it was a second down in the first quarter where he spun off a block and made a tackle. It was like unbelievable energy and effort. And I think that, yeah, they're at Army practices watching Andre Carter. I think they're taking a peek at Marquel Broughton also. And I think there might be a couple other guys on this Army team down the road, like a Josh Lingenfelter, who could be a blocking tight end down the road. Who knows? But I mean, I don't think Andre Carter is getting all the looks from these NFL scouts. And I hope that a team gives Marquel a chance because they will not be like you look at a guy like John Radigan, right? Look at a guy like John Radigan and what he did his senior year, and the same thing, his football IQ, his passion for the game, and he's been battling an injury. Hope we see John on the field very soon, but he's with the Seahawks. I think Marquel could be, start off as a special teams player and work his way up. I mean, that's just my opinion. I'd love to get Ross Tucker's opinion on it, to be honest with you.
Ricky, you did it. If you're still listening, you did a great job. Congratulations, and we're all very impressed.
Yeah, so she said it was his very first jersey he wore when he was 5. He started a black night and he's ending a black night. Those were the jerseys we were wearing yesterday. That's amazing. And Marquel talked about his first game at Mikey Stadium and they had the black pants, the black jersey, and the gold helmet. And he asked his team if they want to wear those same uniforms for the senior class, if they want to wear the same uniforms for their final game at Mikey Stadium. It was an overwhelmingly vote of yes. And I mean, man, got 2 more games at least with Marquel. He had 12 tackles in this game. Like we said, tackle for loss. Now, I believe it was his 7th career interception on a play where he was going to hit the guy that when the pass was thrown. Instead, he adjusted to the ball and intercepted the ball. That interception, Seth, was a huge play in the game. That kind of gave Army drove, scored a touchdown, extended its lead, definitely gained more control of the game. And I think the next drive, the freshman quarterback from UConn throws the interception to DeAndre Tobias. And the defense gets their 2 turnovers. They win the turnover battle, right? And what happens when Army wins? Brendan, what happens when Army wins the turnover battle, right? They usually win games.
Well, as Monken said yesterday, 78% of the teams in the NCAA last year who won the turnover battle, they won the
stat, right?
No, that's a stat he came up with, which I think is a good stat. I mean, that's great, but that makes sense too. You win the turnover battle, you have the ball more often, and you score more often.
Yeah. I mean,
go ahead, Brian.
To me, yesterday was like kind of like classic solid Army defense, where it's like maybe they might give you yards between the 20s, but once you get in the red zone, like they're gonna lock you down. And if they can add 1 or 2 turnovers on top of that, like that's a great performance, And my concern heading into the game was, is the offense going to do enough to win the game? I figured they'd probably have to score 4 touchdowns to seal it, which ultimately is what happened. And then they had the bonus special team score to start things off to kind of give them a little cushion. But I mean, it's a team game. It was a team win.
Absolutely,
no doubt. And you know what, Seth? I remember being in the press box, right, and telling you, man, I think the defense needs to score a touchdown here early in the game because the offense wasn't doing much, and it seemed like
You said that.
they were a little stubborn to throw the ball, right? They were a little stubborn to throw the ball and they wanted to run. And this was the 8th game in the Jeff Monken era where they didn't complete a pass and they won a game. So, I mean, my bad. I'm wrong, I guess. I thought they should have put the ball in the air a little bit more than they did. They got some big plays and
Sal, did you also say it's the third time this season they've done that?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like that kind of boggles my
Louisiana
mind. Like
Monroe. Well, Villanova, they didn't complete a pass. I know for a fact
yeah,
and I think
Villanova. I wasn't.
Colgate,
I don't know about.
Colgate, I think.
Colgate maybe, but I like
Um,
that kind of
Louisiana Monroe. There was another game this year. I know they didn't complete a pass. I had it all written
yeah.
down, of course.
Yeah, I want to take this now a step further, and we talk about this game and the fact they didn't complete a pass, yet they did go outside, they did use speed more. Let's jump over the UMass game, and I know I'm not supposed to do that, to the Navy game. Navy knows what we're going to do because we've done it in the past. They know our offense. We know their offense. The odds are you're going to have a very good defensive struggle like we did with Air Force and we came up on the losing end, as we have in the last few years and many years. I just hope that in the 3 weeks or the 2 weeks, the 2 weeks we're off between the UMass game and the Navy game, that these guys, the coaching staff, does everything they can to give this team a chance to win with a unusual offensive scheme that Navy.
Not happening. Not happening, Seth. They're not changing their offense
You
for
know,
this game.
I'm sorry, say again.
They're not going to change their offense for the Navy game.
Well,
I mean,
okay, so I'll offer one counterpoint. Well, technically two, because coaches are crazy, and this is not Army related, but my high school alma mater. This was like more than a few years after I graduated, but they're in the States. They were in the sectional title game in New Jersey. And the second half of the game, they roll out a wildcat offense that they have not shown all season, just because they had heartbreak like a couple of years prior, and they just wanted to make sure that they were going to win the game. But in terms of Army, it wasn't like it was an entirely new offense, but they had a significant package of plays when they beat Air Force in 2017. When they beat them 21-0, they rolled out a pretty robust series for that game. There was a lot. It was a lot more kind of like read option look from the shotgun, at least from what I remember. But yeah, I don't know. Navy has 3 weeks to prepare, and Army only has 2, which is the reverse of how it's been.
yeah,
pretty much since Navy joined the American Conference.
and Navy coming off that big win over Central Florida yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, they're getting. I think that John Marshall, one of their linebackers slash defensive backs, had 4 sacks in that game. I mean, you know what? In these last couple games against Navy, man, scoring's been hard to come by. Their defensive coordinator Brian Newberry has done a really good job against Army. So Seth, maybe you're right. Maybe you have to come up with a little. You got to come up. Let's say a couple wrinkles, Seth. Can we say a couple wrinkles in the offense at least?
Happy with a couple of wrinkles. You know what?
Couple wrinkles.
A couple of wrinkles that made sense. Throwing the ball forward, not these backward plays that you're hoping to, trick them or something. I'm not looking for trick plays. I'm looking for plays that make sense.
Yeah, no double passes.
Right.
I think that
doesn't take us out. I don't want to see a 3rd and 12 because of some stupid play that goes backwards. That's what killed, Connecticut on their second, the second drive where they were, the touchdown got called back. They did a play that the play went backwards. And it went from 2nd and 1 to 3rd and 5 or something like that. It's like you go forward. Hey, Navy put up, as Bay Knight says, Navy put up 32 points, but Navy won the last quarter of that game. They came back on Notre Dame, and I hear they have a new quarterback in there. I don't know if he played against Central Florida or not, but I know he played against Notre Dame.
Yeah, Xavier Erline played, I think, most of the game. But you know what? I saw somebody post it. I wish I could give the guy credit on Twitter. Maybe I'll look it up while we're on. So I guess all 3 service academies this week did not complete a pass in their games and won. Navy won, and Air Force won without a completed pass, I believe. It's
Oh my
Service Academy
gosh.
football, baby. Yeah,
Yeah,
this
well, good to see.
it
I love when all three win. I love to because I think a win for of
uh
course we're not playing the other ones. I think if they all come up, they rise and fall together, and
mm,
I you know I love that. So I know a lot of people don't, but I want to see
w-
Army be. I want to see Navy have one or two losses on their schedule, and Air Force have one or two losses, and Army go undefeated. That's what I want to see. And
we have plenty of time to preview the Navy game. As far as what you're talking about, Seth, I think it's the offense. What I might want to see, because we see some of the defensive linemen on the opposition, they're really shooting gaps, right? And they're getting in the backfield pretty early. I don't know if a 2 minute or kind of a not a hurry up offense, but snapping the ball a little earlier in the play clock might just keep the defenses a little off. Off from maybe they're playing the snap. I don't know if they're playing a
I
snap count, Brendan, or not, but they're getting in the backfield pretty quick this year.
well, I think I think Army's like I don't know if I would call it a hurry up offense, but I want to say it was on the touchdown drive uh that Jones led before the half.
Yeah,
They
2 minutes.
basically weren't allowing UConn to substitute, and that was creating some great advantage for Army. So I would certainly have no problem taking the offense in that direction a little more often.
Maybe something like that. And I'm not saying whoever's the quarterback, right? Because they didn't really switch him in and out. Tyre had most of the game, right? Had most of the game against UConn. Yeah, they brought in Jones when they need to move the ball a little bit on that late second quarter drive. And then once the game was in hand, Cade Ballard came in and he picked up a first down and the game was over. It was good to see Cade Ballard in the game on senior day. He's a guy who had a big impact on this team earlier in the season, throwing the ball, and it was good to see him get some game reps. Who knows at UMass what happens, right? I mean, if it gets comfortable, you can play some guys. Maybe we'll see Bryson Daly in the game too. And I was right. So Villanova and Colgate, they did not complete a pass in and they won the games. So now that this year, Brendan. So now you can throw in UConn in there too. And who knows what we get with UMass. Maybe they'll just say, hey, we're gonna run the ball, stop us, UMass. And maybe we'll get the fourth win without a completion this season, which would be when you
Yeah,
have four out of your 5 wins, or so 3 out of their 4 wins now, they didn't complete a pass.
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
that's nuts.
that was the word I think going into the Villanova game. Because they had been passing so much uh, the first two games of the season. I think it was like during the spirit lunch or whatever during the week, Monken was like, "We got to run the ball 85 times and pass zero." So I don't know if he does it again this week for UMass, but um, it's like I think all of us see it the same way. It's whatever it takes to be successful is ultimately what we care about.
We all want to win. We all want to win, and we see, as people sitting up in a press box or watching on TV, we see things a little differently than the coaching staff. They know a lot more than we know, but um, you know, again, we all watch a lot of football in our lives. We're not young guys anymore. At least I'm not. And I watched a lot of football. You sit there and say, "Boy, it's all about confusing the defense." And the option is designed to take advantage of what you have, which is speed, which is and you got to do more things to confuse. You got to do it against UMass, and you got to do it against Navy, and who knows? Maybe Sal. Maybe you want to get into it. There might be a chance of 2 wins, get to a bowl game, and then a
Uh,
possible winning season.
well, let me get into that. I wanted to talk about that. I think we could put the UConn. Is there anything else you guys want to bring up about the UConn game? Because then there's a couple just random things I like to talk about that is not really game related, so to speak.
Yeah, good win. Good win.
Yeah, I don't have anything else.
Gotcha. So let's talk about real quick the bowl eligibility thing. I had messaged the a communications person from the Independence Bowl last week because I just wanted to get a feel, right? Are they going to wait for Army if Army has 5 wins before the Navy game? And would they wait to see what the result of the Navy game was? Is there a waiver involved with the second win over an FCS team? And they basically told me that, I guess they have the bowl selection show. I think it's the Sunday before the Army Navy game, right? And that's when the teams it's almost like it's not like the selection show for the Final Four, but it's just like they who's going to make the New Year's Six bowls, who's going to make the playoffs, the national playoff games, right? And from what he told me, he said, well, if Army is eligible at that moment, then we would love to have them play in the Independence Bowl. Well, Army is not going to be bowl eligible in that moment, right? They're not. Now, here's the kicker. There's tons of bowl games out there. I've lost count, right? Is there 40 bowl games out there these days? I can't. I
I
don't
think
know.
there's 45.
How many?
I think there's 45 bowl games now. I'm
There
gonna look
can't
it up.
be.
I
I think
believe.
there maybe 35, but not
Well,
45.
no, I believe
Because
I'm gonna look it up as we're talking. I'm pretty sure there are.
okay, because here's the deal: if there's not enough bowl eligible teams, right, then bowls can accept the 5 and 7 teams. They could accept teams that did not reach the bowl eligible list. But I think it's based on a ranking system, so to speak. And I still think that Army with 5 wins and only 4 wins that count would be a little bit lower than that. Like, does the Independence Bowl say, hey, they're a bowl tie-in? They're 5 and 6 going right now. Because does the Independence Bowl take a 5 and 7 Army team if they weren't able to, beat Navy? Would they take a 5 and 7 Army team with 4 wins over FBS teams? I don't know. That's going to be interesting to watch. I would say that Army's chances of playing in a bowl game this year are very slim. That's just from what I've heard. Now, if that changes with the amount of teams, I mean, I should have done the math before I got here and said, hey, there are already X amount of teams bowl eligible. There's this amount of bowls. I used to do that when I was a beat writer, and I used to just been a busy weekend.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
did see somebody on Twitter today who was doing some of that math, and I forget the exact word he used, but he's basically he said it's like it's not 0% that Army makes a bowl, but it's probably less than 1% chance that they make a bowl
Guys,
this
there
year.
are 43 bowl games this year.
she said, hey, how about Federico Daniels with 42? She says there are 42 bowl games. So
And
that's
if
84 team. That's 84 teams. There's what 130 or 131.
if you do 130, so how many of those teams have winning records at this point? Remember, you do get to count one non-division one game.
Yeah,
FCS team. Army has two, but
that's
that's the
that Troy game becomes a real kick in the butt, right? Because that game was there, right? That
Yeah.
becomes a real kick in the butt. I mean, the Air Force game, I mean, yeah, but that Troy game was theirs. That Troy game was theirs for the majority of the game, and that becomes maybe the difference in whether they make a bowl or not. Because then at least you get to your 6 and 5, and if you've who knows? I still don't officially know if they've acquired a waiver or not for that second one, FCS game to count because they were supposed to play Tennessee. Tennessee backed out, and they had to schedule somebody in that slot. But who knows? I mean, I
Yeah,
think that
I wouldn't count on anything like that.
no, and of course it's a year when they have a tie-in too, the Independence Bowl tie-in, right? So I mean, go figure.
So check this out. There's a bowl game called the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl. It's on December 17th. It matches up, and this all can change. A Pac-12 team and a Mountain West team. The Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think and too,
Jimmy,
I remember doing the bowl matchups, back in the day, back when Brendan, correct me if I'm wrong. Were having a really good season, right? And they were not going to be. It was a pandemic season. It was 2020, right? Where they weren't sure they were going to get into a bowl, and then what? Then
Well,
they got into the Go ahead.
so what happened in 2020? They hit 6 wins, and a representative from the Independence Bowl was at the game and basically said, like, here's your invitation. Fast forward to the end of the season, whoever was supposed to play them, like, contractually backs out,
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah,
of COVID. and they
That's
can't
right.
find a replacement,
It
and
was
so they have to
year.
cancel the
Last year.
Independence Bowl. And
So where did we go? Where did we go in 2020?
they went to the Liberty Bowl.
Liberty Bowl. Yeah,
Because
Liberty Bowl, which was good.
Yeah, and like I will always have a soft spot for West Virginia now, just because they were
Neil Brown.
willing,
Yep.
they were willing to get in the ring with the Army when literally nobody else in the country wanted to.
Right.
Yeah, that was.
Well, last
Yep.
year we had no bowl go. We were 9-3 with no bowl game to go to, and then something opened up. And we got to play Missouri in the which bowl was that? I forget.
Armed Forces Bowl.
Forces.
Armed Forces.
Well, so Army's current contract, it's like a 6-year deal, and the even years, if they're eligible, they go to the Independence Bowl, which didn't work out in 2020 and probably isn't going to work out this year.
Yeah.
Like, they're just never going to go back to the Independence Bowl, apparently, even though they have
96,
this
right?
contract.
Have you ever been to Shreveport, Louisiana? I have.
I've never been to Louisiana, period.
Yeah, me either.
Louisiana, interesting state. Shreveport is in the upper west corner of the northwest corner of the state, and it's whatever. It's not the best bowl destination. Of course, a lot of bowls. You have Boston and New York and Detroit in the winter. Who wants to go there? But that's what it is. I'm going to tell you right now. I am positive. That at least one or two 5 and 7 teams will be offered bowl positions because they got to fill these spots.
They will. The problem is apparently right now Army is like number 5 in line for APR.
Go by TV ratings.
APR, right? It's APR. How
APR,
they determine that? Yeah. That's what I was gonna say.
Go by TV ratings, and everybody wants Army because Army's a national team. The Army-Navy game draws very well for TV. Granted, there's no competition, but there are other things that people want to watch the Army-Navy game. They feel it. I was talking to somebody yesterday, woman I went on a date with, and she had no idea that the Army-Navy game, the Army, Navy, and Air Force and Coast Guard and I guess the Merchant Marines, she thought these are a bunch of guys who are in the military and they get together and they.
All right, yeah.
No idea, but everybody loves watching the Army Navy game and the Air Force too, because it's a national team and they do well in ratings. And ESPN only cares about making money, and they're behind all of this, as you know. And I think we have a shot at 5. I mean,
ESPN's behind a lot. ESPN's behind a lot of it, but unfortunately, I think this is an NCAA rule that we're dealing with in terms of APR.
Brendan, do you know who the teams ahead of Army are by any chance or no?
No.
Okay. It would be interesting to see who the teams if they're Power 5 teams, by all means. But if they're like Group of 5 teams, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if make any bowl plans yet. We'll see how it unfolds. But like you say, slim to none. But we'll see.
For me as a fan, especially the way last year went, if they finish 6-6 by beating Navy, that's all I need. Like I don't need a bowl game after that.
Very true. Very true.
Much as I would love the program to get another check, but just as a fan, like I don't need anything else this season if they beat Navy.
What is APR? What does that mean, APR?
It's don't ask that question right now, Seth. I'm not in any condition.
Academic progression rate.
Academics. We should be at the top of academics. No, we're West Point.
You're not. It has nothing to do with how good your academics are at your university. It has to do with how you do
something like that, right?
Your team. Yeah. I don't really want to get into that, to be honest with you.
Rutgers got in. Think about it. Rutgers went to a bowl game last year, lost. I think they played somebody pretty good, and they finished the season 5-8. So they went to a bowl game with their bowl plus.
Probably first 5-8. Yeah. I wanted to talk about. Sorry about that. I wanted to talk about we briefly mentioned it about this is the last game for Army football to be played in the way Mikey Stadium is currently configured, right? They're going to have the renovation that's supposed to start in the summer of 2023. And so, in the second half of the game, fourth quarter, I have a friend who has seats around the 40-yard line on the east stands that are getting knocked down. And I was watching the game with him for the fourth quarter a little bit, and he sent me a video after the game of the alma mater being played from his seat, and the last time he'll be sitting in his seats on the 40-yard line. He's been sitting in the same seat since 1978. His family, I mean that goes way, yeah. I mean it goes way back, and it's gonna be certainly something different, right? Seth, you've had season tickets for a long time too. I'm
I
thinking you're on the home side of Mikey Stadium,
West
right?
side, I'm on a 37-yard line on a 36-yard line on the west side on the lower deck. I guess it's section 13, I think it is. And when they moved the cadets from the west side to the east side for TV purposes, right move. They moved me from the east to the west. I've had season tickets in my name since 1980, and my father had it in his name since the mid 1960s. And a continuous except for the 4 years I was in college. I'm curious what
Yeah.
they're going to do because how many seats are there on the East Stands? What, about 10,000? Do we know how many seats
Maybe
there are?
Maybe not even
there's
that many.
4,000 cadets. I'd
They
say,
take
well, 4,000 cadets sit on that side too, right? And they make it to the 50 about, so I'd say about 8,000
Yeah,
seats, maybe,
yeah, 7,500, 8,000,
roughly,
something like that.
okay. All right, so they got to
Yeah. So I mean,
get the cadets someplace for a couple of years, and they got to take.
That's what I'm wondering. Like where, because once the new stands are built,
well,
the cadets are not going in there. I don't think.
No,
I have
they're going to
I
be back.
thought I heard some.
Good, so I'm
I thought
sorry.
I heard something. No, I thought I heard something where they're gonna bring in portable seats, for the, home side. Now, I don't know how that's gonna work out because if you put portable seats along, I thought I heard something, and if I have it wrong, I apologize, but I thought I heard something with portable seats along the sidelines of the Army sidelines possibility. Maybe portable seats along, no, because you couldn't put it on the east stand sidelines because obviously you have the opponent there. There's not a ton of room on the Army sidelines, right? I mean, there's some, but not a ton
No,
where you could
There's
fit
no,
portable seats. It's
no.
going to be interesting. It's
you
going to
know,
be interesting on how it
let
goes.
me ask another question. Where's the locker room going to be for the opponent?
Same thing, I believe, because they go underneath the stadium, right? For the locker room, there's steps
Knocking the
that
whole
lead
thing
underneath the
down. They're
stadium.
knocking that whole thing down. I'm sure they're rebuilding the locker
Uh,
room.
No, worst comes to that's a good question. Worst comes to worst, maybe they'll use the lacrosse building's lockers, but I'm not sure how big that is. I mean, the lacrosse building that's in the north side of the field where the scoreboard is, maybe they'll do
Yeah,
that. That's a good question. I don't know. I guess that's the option. I'm not sure. That's something that maybe once the season's over, maybe can talk to maybe athletic director Mike Buddy about, or just try to get a little bit of a feel what's going on. But it's going to be a different Mikey Stadium, and you kind of take it in a little bit when you're at the game. Seth, you know what? I was looking at the video that I shot of the helicopter, the parachuter bringing in the Army flag, right? And you see the he stands in the background, and you see Lusk Reservoir in the background. I'm like, this is the last time I'm gonna be able to take a picture like this or see the stadium like this. And I'm not like you. I probably went to my first Army game as a reporter in, I want to say 2002, maybe 2000. So I don't have the history that you have. I mean, the press box was the old press box where the cannon went off and the ceiling pieces of the ceiling came down on you possibly when you were in the press box. But
I
yeah, the
remember
stadium's
a
changed.
photo of that press box. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, things change, and I get you're trying to do this to put in what luxury boxes. Does luxury boxes bring in more money? I guess it does because that's why they're doing it. The money that they're raising for this project to do this, I mean, they're doing it for a reason. And I just feel for it's bittersweet to see the fans, especially people that I know that have been in the same seats sit for, man, I do the math, 40, 44 years. Their families had seats,
That's great.
those
That's
seats.
great.
Yeah, and now I mean, that game, there were some people were leaving during that game a little earlier, but I know that obviously my friend stuck there to the to the end, not the bitter end. He stuck there to the end, and we'll see. I mean, I wanted to bring it up because I did think that that this is the last time we're going to see Mikey Stadium like that.
I am very concerned where my seats are going to go. Now, if I'm working with you, I'm in the press box. My kids
You
are sitting.
haven't been told. You haven't been told yet.
They haven't told us anything what's going to happen. I don't think they know yet. I don't think they know what to do.
Oh, okay.
What
Okay.
happens if they decide to move the cadets back to where they used to be, where I am. I have a picture
Was
right on my wall from 1955 of the seats of the cadets there and the band behind them, and I'm sitting in those seats now when I go to the game. It's on my wall here, and I don't know whether they're going to bring them back. I mean, you got to give them decent seats, or do they put them all up in the upper deck maybe, and put all the cadets in the upper deck, or do they put us in the upper deck?
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do. It's 2 years. I wish it was only one. I wish they started construction tomorrow. I really do. I mean, start knocking the thing down tomorrow. But Sal says they don't have enough money yet. But if can't they get this done in 1.5 years? Start working December
I don't know.
and finish.
You know what?
Of 24.
I will say this, just an idea, and I don't think it's going to come true, but you have the South stands where usually the opposing team has tickets to that section, right? In the South stands. Maybe you put the cadets there. I mean, the Army locker room's right there. I
Maybe.
mean, I don't know. We'll see, but that's still not enough. It's still not enough space. So.
I have sat all over Mikey Stadium for various reasons, even though I had season tickets. I've sat all over the stadium. I will tell you this. You do not want to sit in the first 3 or 4 rows in that stadium anywhere, especially on the south, north, and west side. East side's a little bit better. And because people are walking in front of you constantly. The players on the sidelines block your view. You do not want to sit there throughout the whole stadium. And you do not want to sit in the end zone at West Point. The seats are low. You can't see what's going on down, past the 40-yard line. And you just don't want to sit there. Trust me. So now suddenly somebody's going to be sitting there because, from going from what do we hold now? 39,000. It's going down to 30,000. Okay. And of those 30,000, you got 4,000 cadets plus some other people. You got 5,000 people automatically are going to be there. And in 2 years,
I'm not sure what the capacity.
We got Boston College coming in next year. They travel really well. I mean, they're not good this year. Maybe it may not be good next year, so maybe it'll be less. And then you got Syracuse coming in 2 years. And they traveled, there's a lot of, I'm a Syracuse grad, as you guys know. There's a lot of Syracuse grads in this area. And, if they're a decent team, people are going to want to go up there and see them play. And they their fans. Hey, UConn brought their fans yesterday. You talk about we had 31,000. We had 31,000 there. I bet you 6,000 or 7,000 were UConn fans in the end zone and their band and 30 cheerleaders. They had they had the full band there. And then on the East stands, there were. It seemed to me that it seemed to me that most of the fans on the East side, besides the core, were UConn fans. I mean, I'm not sure of that, but it seemed that way.
You know what? I saw something on social media maybe last week or something where I think Air Force Stadium is also getting a renovation too, or they're doing something to Air Force's stadium too.
Well, that's
So
why
I don't know if this was like, hey, but Army's been trying to do this for a while. I would say that this idea probably started around 2018. I could be wrong. It's a couple of years before the pandemic. I'm pretty sure that this idea of a renovation started for the stadium, and it's just taken a while to get the money, the amount of money funded, and I think they've adjusted the cost of the project. And it's like at some point you either got to do it or you got to do it. If you got the money raised, eventually you have to. So
I was told when they made the deal with Oklahoma that Oklahoma said they would come in, but they never because they wanted to come to the East Coast and they wanted to play at a service academy, and everybody was real big. I can't tell you how many people from Oklahoma contacted me in 2020, people I know saying, hey, you have extra tickets for the game? but I was told that some of these schools do not want to play at West Point with unless the stadium capacity is at least 50K. And I
I have
understand. I understand. No, I understand it's going to be 50K. I understand that the new stadium, the capacity will go to 50K. They're adding on 10,000 more seats.
where are they adding 10,000 seats? They're going down in capacity, Seth. They're not going up in
Yeah, they're
capacity.
going down.
Oh, it's going to
Because
50,000.
they're having these luxury boxes. They're having these luxury boxes that are taking away seats. They're not adding seats.
I'm going to
You
look that
say that
up. I'm saying,
50,000 seats at Mikey Stadium? No way, Seth. No way.
telling you, that's what I heard.
I
I'm
don't
telling you,
know.
that's what I heard.
I don't think so, dude. I'll look up their press release, but I don't know if they mentioned their most recent press release, but everything I heard was capacity was going down, not up. I don't know. Right, Brendan? Have you heard anything?
Yeah, from what I understand, the whole point of the renovation project is so that they can put in luxury suites, and the idea is that those tickets will basically generate as much revenue as like an average game day now.
Yeah.
With 30,000 people going. Um,
Yeah, I
so
think it's going to be
yeah,
about 30,000 capacity. I think between 30 and 32, maybe. I could be wrong. That's what I heard originally. This is what I heard originally when they first were announcing the project. Could things have changed? But 50K, man, that's where.
That's
Where are
what
you putting?
I am.
That means
I'm looking it up
that
right now.
means that means the East stands would have 20,000 seats? No. No.
no.
I don't think so, man. I don't think
And
so.
it's like I totally get the idea of wanting to offer like a more premium experience. Like I can totally understand that. And if it's actually going to generate more revenue, that's even more understandable. But is it going to fix parking on posts? Probably
Nah,
not.
yeah.
I
I
mean,
I can't imagine.
anybody who went to the Wake Forest game last year, it's like they can't handle 38,000. So I don't know.
Yeah,
No,
I don't think so. I don't think 50K is where they're going, but I could be wrong. I think those games where they're playing like a Boston College and Syracuse when your stadium's under construction, that really yells out play at a neutral site. And I thought I was told that they might not do that. So I mean Boston College Army at MetLife, Army Syracuse at MetLife. I don't know.
I don't think they'll draw
Maybe.
at MetLife. Syracuse plays Notre Dame at MetLife, and they weren't filled up. I mean, Syracuse Penn State. I've
Yeah.
been to games, they weren't filled up. You think they're I'm looking up right now. Oh, so let me ask the question now. Okay, where's your
Oh
friend
boy.
who he stands? Where's that guy? Where's that guy when this new stadium is done? Where's he going? Where are they going to put all of us who spent a
Yeah, I
lot of
think
money?
so if it's geographically, right, and you're looking at the stadium, I think it's something to the point where they would be like in the northwest kind of area, like where, you know, between basically the army team and the scoreboard, somewhere in between there.
Those
They
are not
might be.
those are not great seats. I'm gonna
I
tell you.
don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm not even sure. So
If
That this
you're
is all like stuff that I heard. This is stuff that I've heard, not necessarily from my friend. This is stuff that I've heard. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
because now you got me very interested because if they're cutting the capacity down by 5, 6, 7,000,
No,
well, they can't cut it down by that much because they're leaving 30,000 seats alone. So I mean, my guess is at a minimum it'll be the same size, as the previous day. I mean, you might have more people in the boxes, but at a minimum it'll be the
maybe 35 tops. I think maybe 35 tops.
Yeah.
same.
Maybe I could be wrong. I could be wrong. We'll see. Man, we spent a lot of time talking about that, but it's a good subject to talk about. Maybe we could back it up with some facts and numbers and more information later on, so to speak. You know what I wanted to talk to you a little bit. We're gonna wrap this up in a little bit. I want to talk about the response I got from people. I managed to get to a couple tailgates. on Saturday. It's something that I want to do a lot this season, just to spread the word about Black Knight Nation, what we're doing around here, and just see people that there's a lot of people that I correspond with um, through messages, emails, or whatever that follow us that I would like to put a face with. So I was getting lost in the parking lots of West Point on Saturday, and I bumped into a tailgate that had an '84 grad there, and he's an '84 grad who was at the Tennessee. 85 probably no, class 84. I thought he said he was at the Tennessee game that Nate Sassaman was talking about, the game that they tied, and he mentioned he mentioned listening to our podcast and how great it was having Nate Sassaman on and his stories and stuff and how he lived through that time that Nate Sassaman was talking about. And just to bump into people like that, I was walking up the stands to my friend's seat, and coming down was a guy saying, "Sal, I love your guys' podcast," right? Seth, you're a celebrity. People are stopping you at Mikey Stadium saying you're the guy on these recap podcasts, right?
That
So
happened
it's just
yesterday.
really, you got a story with that one or no?
No, this happened to me yesterday. I was walking down to the press conference, and some guy stopped me, asked me a question or two, and he said, "Hey, you're the guy from the podcast. How you doing? Blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Hey," I was embarrassed, to be honest with you. It was
Embarrassed, you're a celebrity, Seth.
a
That's
celebrity.
celebrity status. It's just really great that we work hard here to try to provide you the coverage that we can. I mean, with the time that we have dedicated, and it's really great to hear from Black Knight Nation when we're at football games to say, hey, we're just trying to provide coverage for. We know that Seth and Brendan, we know how passionate this fan base is, right? We know how passionate, how much pride this fan base has for the program, and it's good to hear when you're at the games. And I wish we had some Black Knight Nation shirts to pass out to people, just to express how grateful we are for people that are following us. And we have a lot to thank with Higher Echelon Joe Ross for keeping us going here. We really are trying to get some, bring people things that they can't really get elsewhere. And we're doing that a little bit with these podcast recaps. We're doing it with these interviews with former players. We're doing it with the maybe some interviews here and there when we're at games. And it's really it was just really good to see that, you know just have your work being noticed and just the respect people have for you. And guys bumping into you, hey, I think I met you like 5 years ago and stuff. That I'm like, I'm not very good with names and faces, So, and I did see I did see Caleb Campbell. I was walking aimlessly through a parking lot where I was probably 2 feet away from the tailgate I was supposed to be at, but do the Grand Circle route to get there. And Caleb Campbell, the last Army football draft pick, um, yelled at me, Sal, Sal. I'm like, oh, it's Caleb. And we talked for a couple minutes. Caleb was on this podcast as a guest. Guys, if you, I was mentioning it to the Army fans I was talking to at the tailgates. If you have time and you can search our YouTube channel, Caleb Campbell Black Knight Nation podcast. That's one of our best podcasts that we've ever done. Caleb opened up about a lot of things, about the pressures of being the guy who was going to be the next Army football player in the pros. Man, it's a really powerful podcast. If you listen to that, that is one of the best that we have. If you have a little bit of an hour or two to spare, if you're doing stuff around the house, if you're at work and you're bored, Caleb Campbell podcast is one of our best. And it was great to see Caleb for just a brief time before the game. So, man, that's really all I have for
I just want to say,
tonight.
you do a great
Yeah.
job. I before I got involved with you, I came to the site and read up about recruits and the games and stuff like that. And I'm proud to be part of this team, and it's a lot of fun. And it's meeting the players and getting to know these kids and to see what quality human beings they are, and the coaching staff. And I got to tell you, I didn't know Monken at all before I got involved with you. And I liked the guy. I didn't like him so much before I met him, because I didn't, love everything he did. But, he cares so much about this program, and kudos to him and his staff. And, listen, he thinks he's doing the right thing. Sometimes it doesn't work out. But, you do a great job. I'm glad to be part of this team. And, I just think we got to let more people know about what we're doing, and they'll come to it because we're the best source out there for Army sports. And
Well,
and we care. All three of us care. Steve cares. The other Steve cares. And we want to do the right thing. We cover every game, every game, home and away. We're involved with the program. Not everybody
yeah.
does that. So good job.
Yeah, it's definitely a shout out to the collaborating. We collaborated with Steve Kripke at Crawdad's Countdown for Kickoff. We collaborated with the As for Football guys, Dan, James, and Jordan. We collaborated with Connor Crean of Barstool Sports. I mean, just having different voices on here, right? Brendan's been great to provide a little bit of the fan perspective on this team. And man, I had something else to say, but I forgot what I was going to say just about like what we do. And I wanted to talk about Monken real quick because Seth, the time we got with him after the press conference is not something that he had to do after Saturday's game. There's recruits on campus, and there was a recruit that after the game that I'm writing about right now that after his visit went up to Monken's office and gave him his commitment. He said that the the first time he walked into Mikey Stadium, yet on Saturday, he was there for a game visit. He knew that Army was the place for him. It's Brody Eaton. You can check out that story up on our website very soon about Brody Eaton, a Pennsylvania tight end. Just to hear Monken talk about the seniors, right? Because we went over a little bit about DeAndre Tobias. He mentioned Cole Catterbone. He mentioned Kwabena Bonsu and what these guys have been through in their time here. Tyler Tyler. He basically went through most of the senior class and had, really great things to say about them after the game. And just the fact that he gave us the time after that when he didn't really have to, just to talk to us and appreciate that we were at the game, right? Covering the game too. That's not something that you get from most Division 1 coaches, FBS coaches. That's not something that you get at Mikey Stadium. I remember a time when I was covering the team. One of the last years I was covering the team for the newspaper, and I saw Jeff at a O'Neill lacrosse game. His daughter was playing for the O'Neill lacrosse team, and talked to him just for a couple minutes. I mean, that was his time. That was his kind of family time. I didn't want to bother him too much, but we talked for a couple minutes, and you realize just how important like the bonds are between him and his family's important to him. The brotherhood's important to him. Yeah, he likes to win too, right? But I mean, the people that he's producing for the Army, the former players that are out there serving, guys like Ray Wright and JD Moat, who I think it was last year at that Afghanistan airport situation that they're getting people out of the airport to safety. I mean, these are just special people. And I always said, Seth and Brendan, I don't know if you can echo this. When I'm allowed through the gates of West Point and they let me cover the football team during my beat writing days and they let me cover the games and I'm allowed on the field during pregame to take my videos and post on our social medias, it's an honor and a privilege that I don't take lightly. And that's why we try to do here. Our mission here is to do the very best we can do with the time we have to cover this team, to cover the sports. I think we need to do a little bit more with the other sports. Hoping we had the wrestling coach Kevin Ward on a podcast before his season starts. We'd like to get the other sports involved a little bit more here if time allows, and that's why Seth, you may play a big role in that too if you want to. So we're just
Okay.
I just want to say that. I mean,
Well, let me just add, I come from a semi-military family. My dad and my uncle were in World War II. My uncle was an officer. They both were officers. My uncle was a big shot officer in the Pacific Army, both of them Army. And my kids make fun of me that my kids are big sports nuts. Why do I root for Army so much? There's so many other teams, Penn State, in the area. It's even all three of us went to Syracuse. Not a great program, but better. And I said, I root for Army because of what these kids do. That they go to West Point. It's a tough school. It's a great academic school. They come out and they become, in many cases, they become leaders. They become leaders of our military. They get involved in, after the military careers are over, they become leaders of the industrial world and the political world. So many of our presidents have been West Point graduates. Certainly our generals, we all know that. And the same goes for the Naval Academy and the Air Force Academy and even Coast Guard. And that's why I love it so much. We're always the underdog in almost every case. Where we're the team is smaller. You're not getting the best recruits that other schools are getting because of various reasons we've talked about before. I'm just proud to be there, and I'm proud of these kids. I love to see them win. You guys see my memorabilia back here. I have West Point things all over my house, in my basement, where it's kind of fun in my room here. I'm very proud to be involved with Army as a fan, and now as somebody covering them. And give Monken credit. The guy's, in my book, he's A1 because he really cares about his kids and his football players and the academy. He may not be here forever. He may go on to greener pastures one day. But while he's here, he really cares, and I'm impressed with that. So I'm glad to be part of this team and glad to be part of helping to promote West Point football and West Point sports.
We have to do an MTV Cribs on Seth's collection, Brendan. We have to do an MTV Cribs.
I don't know what that is. I'm too old for that. What's an MTV Cribs?
Bring that back in, just a video, and you can describe every memorabilia that you have in your house on Army. You can just give us
30 years in the making, guys. This is
oh my God. Oh Lord.
Hey,
real quick, just a quick promos and we'll get out of here. Seth talking about, the guys who have served I was talking about the guys who served at in the Army and had successful careers afterwards, or just the stories that they've shared. If you check our Black Knight Nation podcast out and you look up Greg Gadsden, that's a guy who, just has an incredible story. You look up a guy like Seth Neiman, another guy with an incredible story. We've had these guys on our podcast this year. There's a lot of good history and stories in our archives that we had. Even Jody Glore going back into the 60s teams. Check it out, guys. If you're fans of the program, we're going to get some more guests on. I promise you down the road, former Army players, and we're going to have some good stories to tell. I'm working on getting Clay Daniels on the podcast very soon. That's a name that some people are familiar with too. So hopefully we can get Clay Daniels on the podcast maybe within the next week or two. And he played safety for Army. I believe in the early 2000s, and has a pretty decorated military career too. A guy who the guy before me who covered the Army football team, Justin Rodriguez, and Kevin Gleason, those guys who covered the team before me and set the precedent at the newspaper. Really, we're pretty had a lot of great things about Clay Daniels. So hopefully we'll get Clay Daniels on. And if you guys have any suggestions for who you would like to see on our podcast, you can, if you're on Twitter at Sal Internado, you can right here. You can message me. My DMs are always open, or you can send me an email at salinternado@gmail.com, and we'll do our best to get guys from Army history. I know Rolly Stitchway is a guy we'd like to get on here, Seth. See if we can make contact with him down the road. There's just this program has so much history and so much story. You could write books and books and books on what the people that have been through this program and their stories. And that's what we try to do. We try to let them tell their stories and try to, dig in a little bit to the Army history, as well as provide the best, analytics analysis that we can do. So, man, appreciate you guys hanging out with us for over an hour here.
I'd say one thing about Greg Johnson. I saw him play back in the 80s, and he was a fantastic football player. And, of course, we all know what happened, his injuries, and he has come back. He's a motivational speaker. He's a great American. He's a great American hero. And he's the reason, among many other reasons, many other stories, that people like me, who have really no attachment to the military academy outside of growing up 20 miles south of it, why I've developed such a love for this place. And boy, I wish that guy the best, and he is. That's an American hero. That's what we should all aspire to. The way this man thinks and how he looks forward and all he's done. That's why I'm a fan. Because of guys like Greg Gadsden.
No doubt. Well, we'll wrap this up. This podcast up. We thank Seth Mendelson of Black Knight Nation and Brendan in Jersey for joining us. Again, guys, we've already got the plugs out. Check Black Knight Nation website out. Going to have a bunch of recruiting stories this week coming up. Big recruiting weekend for Army. It was their last home game, so it was the last time recruits can get to see a game at Mikey Stadium this year. And like I said, Brody Eaton, a Pennsylvania tight end, committed on Saturday. We're going to have that story up really quick. Jabril Williams story up on our website. Seth's game story up on our website. Brendan, down the road, if you want to write any pieces on for our site, you're welcome to do so. Just kind of a free open invitation to write for us on your, whatever you like to write about. To be honest with you, so.
Yeah, I might have one or two ideas in the wings. One thing I want to say though, and we're probably a couple weeks away, but I want to get my prediction on the record because I successfully predicted last year's special uniforms for Army for the Navy game. I'm going to guess that they honor the 101st Airborne Division because it's their 80th anniversary this year.
Okay. Gotcha. I thought I saw something on social media just now about Navy revealing their jerseys tomorrow, possibly. They might be revealing their Army Navy jerseys tomorrow. So we'll see if Army comes out with their jersey. I think Army will likely come out with their jerseys after the UMass game. I think
yeah, definitely after
UMass.
UMass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to reveal their.
Who wears white this year? Who's the?
That's a good question, man.
That's a good question. So Army wore like tan last year. So
yeah,
probably
so maybe they have
I think Navy's in the lighter colors this year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you that Army wearing those white uniforms in the snow a few years back. I don't remember what year it was.
It was never better than that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Man, that's a game that we had John Voight on our podcast talking about that game. Ahmad Bradshaw's been on our podcast talking about that game. That goes down as one of the best in recent Army history, and we'll have plenty of more stories to tell. Yeah, great pointing out the jerseys, Brendan. That's something that we'll really look forward to in the next week. Yeah, we got UMass coming up. I already see Army as a 19.5-point favorite at UMass on Saturday.
Yeah.
Noon kickoff. I think it's on ESPN Plus, the game. I'm not sure if we're going to make it up to UMass for the game, but we'll definitely have coverage on Black Knight Nation of the game. And let's see if Army can get another win, get to 5-6, and work to being 500 for the season. We thank everybody watching tonight. Seth and Brendan, appreciate you coming on, and we'll talk to you guys very soon.
Thank you.